Okay, seventh period. I'm sorry I can't be with you today. I had to leave early and I promise I have a good reason. So what I wanted to do is we only have like three more slides to discuss in chapter 20 that I didn't get to on Tuesday. So you're gonna have like 15 to 20 minutes. No, you're gonna have more time than that. You're gonna have like almost 30 minutes to do an amazing thing. Number one, you need to watch that review video that I put out. You can watch the review video in class and take notes on it and start to search for the answers to all of it. So you can get that done like in class today. Prep it so you're not doing it like 11 o'clock tonight. First thing I want you to do though is we're going to watch this video and talk about kind of refresh from Tuesday, but kind of pull in what I want to finish up with Wilson. So remember on Tuesday, we started with Teddy's presidency. We kind of got introduced to it on Monday, but Tuesday we really went through just like all of these amazing things that he had done. So if I go back in the PowerPoint just for a quick second, let's look at things like National Labor Committee, Mueller versus Oregon. Workman, like accident insurance is being passed during his era, which is a huge step in the right direction for labor. That's going to be a test question. We have in the same era, the birth of modern civil rights. Now, again, this is happening in the progressive age. We do see people coming together, but let's not forget one of the big continuities in this era is the lack of change for African Americans. So even though there's strides, Booker, he's on the test, and W.B. Du Bois, the Niagara principles or the Niagara movement on the test, it's there. It's motives for equality. It's a motives for industrial education. It's motives for desegregation. But you're not going to see the ironclad change like you see with Teddy in 1901, actually instituting progressive ideas that we've had since the late 1880s, right? And then we got into extremeness. You do have a question on the industrial workers of the world. So just it's a real key termy question. I mean, this group wants to replace capitalism. They want to take over the economy at large. So make sure you know that going into the test. And then we watched that video. Now I can't play it on the video because YouTube like thinks I'm copywriting them. But I posted that video to Schoology with the additional videos on purpose so you could really see like what your Taft question is. Your Taft question, which everyone's been asking me all day, is well, what's going on in his administration? You see the Republican Party split. So this is a question, like what becomes of the Republican Party? And here's the answer. They turn into the conservatives and the progressive Republicans. Conservative Republicans oppose these radical reforms, while progressives want more change. So much so that Republicans aren't even going to pick Teddy in the 1912 election, which we talked about Tuesday. He's going to walk out. Him and his supporters, he gets on up and walks out. What a boss. And then he starts his own party and he runs as a progressive. Now, he loses to who? Wilson, right? And that's where we're kind of picking up today. So I'm skipping the Spanish American War. I'm skipping a lot of things. I'm skipping World War One, but I want to talk about Wilson as a progressive. Yes, he's a Democrat, but he's really picking up where Taft left off, right? The fact that he won the election is a testament to how bad things got between Teddy and Taft and how Wilson looks like the calm one, right? Here's a good political cartoon to kind of speak to that. He's the educated one. He's got his little cap, right? And his robe. And you can see it in the stature of the Bull Moose Party, Progressive Party. He's got tranquilizers that are just killing him and keeping him from, beating Wilson. So we should have talked about this on Tuesday, but I wanted to give you that cute little intro into Wilson and the New Freedom. Big things that you're going to be tested on. Make sure you know that the federal income tax of 1913, which will eventually be the 16th Amendment of the Constitution, is going to replace tariffs. Y'all, we have been talking about tariffs since Hamilton. It has been a long time coming, and it really only served to aid those in domestic manufacturing, right? The federal income tax is a broad-based tax. It's a progressive tax, so it's going to hit the wealthy really hard, which I think a lot of the people in the United States are ready to do, especially with the gold standard. And then we get the Federal Reserve Act totally on the test. And yes, you have to know what the Federal Reserve is. Super important. At the bottom here, at the end of the day, the greenback caused too much inflation and the gold standard limited the money supply. So you have either no interest rates, rapid inflation, money is worth nothing. Or on the other hand, you have the gold standard, which is not enough money in the money supply, causes the wealth and the wage gap, and interest rates are through the roof. So what do? We don't need to bring in a new currency. We don't even need free silver. Good idea, because it would increase the money supply, which would bring rates down. But the Federal Reserve is a giant central bank that backs up all the commercial banks. If they set the value of currency that everybody has to follow, we can fix problems like the greenback presented. We can fix problems like the gold standard presented. How? Jacking up or pulling down the rates, right? If the economy needs to be stimulated, like in times of a recession, we can bring rates down. That way, more people have access to liquidity in the market. They have more cash on hand. They can get a loan, pay it back at a cheaper rate. So then maybe, I don't know, farmers can mechanize and compete with corporate farms, right? Or we have times like right now where we actually need to contract the economy because there's too much, like what the greenback did. To solve the problem with the greenback, if we just increased rates instead of going to the gold standard, we could have solved our problem. But, you know, the Federal Reserve didn't exist before then. So we get the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. Big thing here, they have the power to issue currency, but most important, they get to set interest rates in the market. So we can, you know, react to the cyclical parts of the economy, right? When the economy is doing bad, we can increase or decrease rates to help everybody, not just the wealth class, right? All right, moving forward for Wilson, make sure you know Clayton antitrust amended Sherman. It's the same goal. It's making it stronger. It's making it easier for government to investigate and create more competitive markets as opposed to people that are doing horizontal integration like Rockefeller, right? It also creates the Federal Trade Commission, which just investigates fairness and making sure that there's no anti-competitive practices in the market. They're still around today. They don't always do a great job, which we'll talk about later on. But I mean, we have a whole commission that regulates. We're not just making laws like Clayton antitrust. We have a whole group of people whose job it is to actively regulate, right? Instead of waiting until cases get to the Supreme Court, you have an entity that's making sure whoever's turning in DBAs, doing business as, are entering in competitive markets, right? Investigating labor is going to be huge. I'm not going to test you on this now. I will in World War I, because that's one of the big reasons why we have better labor relations is because the onset of World War I. Because I don't know if you know this, but Wilson needs a lot of people to build a lot of things so we can win in World War I. We get the federal 8-hour workday for the railroad. That's going to transcend to others. So again, he's just picking up where Teddy and Taft left off. Last, okay, what are our legacies? Well, number one, limitations. What did progressivism not do? Well, it didn't do anything for voting restrictions. It's going to cause, which causes elitism and racism. Let's not forget that you have poll taxes, you have literacy tests, and you have grandfather clauses in the Solid South. You were given an SAQ this week and last week, and we did that continuity paragraph for our conclusion on purpose because I wanted you guys to see that the South is not changing, right? You've got amazing progressive ideas coming out of the NAACP and W.B. Du Bois, and then you have Booker T. Washington, you know, trying to help the situation as well. He's on your test. They're both on your test. Niagara movement. And it's just nobody's endorsing it. The race riots are so bad in the North in this era, which we covered in a previous test. They're so bad that politicians don't even want to mess with it. They don't want to make voters angry. So all of a sudden, they're just going to know, but allow the South to maintain this stagnant growth and just, again, maintain that solid South mentality where democratic governments are just issuing slavery 2.0 with sharecropping. There's not equality in public forum. I mean, bathrooms are separated, schools are separated, voting booths, people are being threatened or not being registered, being able to register to vote. It's crazy. But what is an achievement? Let's talk about the good stuff. We have a blueprint for the industrial era. Now we understand that we don't have to pick capital or labor. One isn't more important than the other. What's important is that capitalism thrives in an environment where labor is also important so everybody can be happy, right? That's that rational middle ground. Wealthy Americans are finally supporting economic regulation. Without that, the progressive era would really struggle. And you really see that in Teddy's presidency because he's differentiating the difference between good and bad trusts. When you get to that point, and we'll talk about it more in chapter 21, because he is going to let the steel industry kind of run amok, but he needs cheap steel to build the Panama Canal. I'm not testing you on that yet. But it's good enough in what he's doing and what Taft is doing that the wealthy start to realize that they can still profit in this era. Okay. We get rid of the spoil system. Yay. What's an unintended consequence? Corporate campaign financing. Don't forget about that. And we do away with urban political machines in chapter 19. So that's good. I'm done. It's all you have to watch. Please, please, please go into Remind, go on Schoology and find the review video. You shouldn't be playing games. Mr. Ford should be in here watching you. You can finish the review video like before you leave school today and check it off your box of your things to do. Like you can do that, right? A lot of classes only had like 15 or 20 minutes. You guys have an insane amount of time to get that done. Okay. So get to work, do well, stop sharing. I got to click all this stuff. Discipline over motivation. You got this.